do this right. Before, used to have just a puck with 4 spacers here. That's how I bought it. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on correctly now. Picked up this mounting bracket. Homeboy named Daigo out there in Silicon Valley. Thanks for the hookup. Gave me a good price on this. Instead, installed the puck already. The stock bolts that lean up on this, they're supposed to thread through. I had to countersink a little bit of this because I couldn't get them to reach all the way. As you can see right here on the back, it's barely grabbing it. But I also got something else that I need to redo on this. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the thread lock just to make sure that stuff doesn't come loose while out in deployment. And as you can see, I've already ran 6/0 cable wires. So all these cables here, they just got unthreaded. They were all tucked up nice and neatly, but I need to go ahead and fix that. So here's what I got: cables for the lights, cables for the fish finder, and as an alternative, I also have a setup here where if I need to have a battery in the front, I can hook it up. So in this example here, I show you the 4 bolts used to mount the puck onto the motor mount. The whole purpose of this shot here was to show you exactly how much of the blue 242 Loctite you should apply on. You just want to dab it just a little bit, but what I've noticed is once you dab it and you try to go ahead and thread it through, most of the time when you're threading it through, it doesn't work out very well because it actually ends up coming off. So what I did here was I actually went ahead and put 4 of the bolts already pre-threaded through the puck itself. At least in this manner, what we have access to is now the very end of the threading, which is going to be crucial for us to put the blue 242 thread locker. So I usually just put a little bit of dab again, just re-showing the same stuff. And from here, it makes it a lot easier to just go ahead and apply it onto the motor mount once it's ready. This way, if you have it like this, you don't have to worry about it not catching all the way. Just like that. Pretty good. So when it comes down to the point of actually tightening these 4 bolts, I highly suggest tightening them in a cross pattern. Just go ahead and tighten the upper right hand corner and then tighten the bottom left. And then you want to do the same thing with the opposing bolts. The reason you want to do it like this is kind of like changing out a tire. You want to make sure everything is equally tightened. Otherwise it'll be uneven when it comes down to making contact with the surface. So after installing these two front brackets, I suggest use some spacers due to the fact that the screw they send you is a little bit oversized in length. You get about an extra 1/4 inch. So what I did was I added 3 extra spacers, and also again with adding some thread locker. Blue 242 is pretty much the one you want to use. That way it's like you can have it securely in there and make sure it's not going to come off. But at least that way you don't over crank it either. That way this can at least rotate for you. After putting these on, then go ahead and feel free to install the 2 last remaining bolts. One is actually longer than the other, so what I did was I used the longer one on closer towards the angler, and the one shorter is furthest away. So that way you can still get all your threading in there. As you can see, yes, I did do it backwards. So I actually put this one in and tried to install these after, but when you put the puck over this at last, you will not be able to do that. So I suggest before you try to put the puck on, make sure you install the template first, get these guys in, lock them down, and make sure these tips right here, these countersunk pieces are already in. Then add the thread locker and put them in. So let's continue. And there you go, just like that. You've got your puck installed. Since I'm right-handed, I set my locker pins to be always handled by my right hand, so that way I can work on it easier and pull it around and unlock it and lock it. So let's go to the next stage. Let's get these cables in here. I gotta trim these down. And there you go. After installing the trolling motor, everything lines up perfectly. Now, let's get the wiring completed. For the wiring itself, I already went ahead and threaded a lot of this with I forgot what this is called. It's a cable organizer, but I ended up going to with Anderson connectors. I did have other type of connectors too that were not as good. They actually started to overheat and melt on you. And previous owner of this kayak was running this system here, which is, don't get me wrong, it's a nice system, well thought of, but in hot weather or when that thing starts to arc or short, this thing would heat. And let me show you the end result. was halfway during fishing, I would have issues with this piece here melting, and I didn't want to deal with that anymore. So because that problem kept occurring, that's why I upgraded to Anderson connectors. So after giving myself about a foot in length, and I still have enough in the back to reach the box where I want it to go, I had to modify one of the holes here, that way it can fit the Anderson connector. Give you an idea. So there's the Anderson connector. I don't want it sitting here exposed while I'm kayaking, because water falls into it. I mean, it is corrosion resistant, and these are marine grade cables, 6/2 by the way. But my concept is, I want to make sure that this can easily be connected here, so that way when I want to run my power, I can connect it there. But when it's time for me to pull out this latch, I can easily just go ahead and pull it through, and I'm set. So just another thing to cover too also, when you're trying to cut these at equal length, since they're not being held together, it might be a pain to get the same kind of measurement. What I like to do is add a little bit of Velcro and tape these up. That way they don't move, separate, and I can hold on to just one strand. Here's one also crucial element that you're going to need. When setting up these Anderson connectors, you only have a limited length of how much you can use. So the ideal length that you want is just enough to get a good grasp of all those metal, of all the copper, but not so much that where you leave a ton of excess right here. So I use this for just eye measuring, just eyeball it, and that way I know where I'm going to cut. Now as you can see here, I have the exact amount that I need to go ahead and run that. So that way, when I go ahead and crimp that on, I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about seeing too much excess. It's just enough. See? Now while trying to crimp these by hand, it's not going to be very easy. What you want to do is get yourself a good crimping tool. This one I got here from Anderson Connections, and this is good to crimp up to 15 to 30 to 45. Those values there, I gotta look them up. I don't know exactly what they're for, but I'm sure that's to gauge a wire. So using these, there you go. And just like that, those arched up angles are now ready to go. Final piece. Okay, so in this next phase, we already have identified that we have the Anderson connector for the inside, one for the trolling motor, and now we got one from the battery. Now the way this is going to work is, I'm going to run 2 lead contact points here, inside here. So this cabling right here is to run for my switch, which is still active and has power. But however, I have set up 2 versions of contact points for this. So now with this, it's going to be just for a test run. We can actually disconnect this. So just to give you an idea, got my distribution block here. These cables right here run directly. Look, I found my clip. These cables here run directly for strictly generating the power to run from the distribution block to the relay switch that powers on everything from trolling motor, auxiliary, lights, and pretty soon it's going to be 360 light. So, but what I've also done here is took the liberty of, besides having this here, I ended up creating a separate contact point. This is in case when it's time to disconnect and recharge. Again, running Anderson connectors. These Anderson connectors, as soon as I get home, ready to charge the battery, all I have to do is disconnect these guys here. Come on, buddy. Really solid contacts, see? And now I can move the battery out. As you can hear, I did put Velcro on it. And the reason I put Velcro on this piece is you want to avoid, when the battery's in here, you want to avoid all that stuff sliding around, because that could end up smashing your bait. So I just threw a Velcro stick piece right here. One Velcro strip allows you to contact with that. You're good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these leads for temporarily right now, just to make sure all our contacts are working. Disconnect this, connect this, and then we're going to do a drive. Not going to be drilled yet, but I'm going to cut a hole right in this area. I'm going to cut a hole right in this area, and that way these cables can go ahead and be fed through for the battery. And I do have a new battery on the way going to be running. So I'm going to need a cable like here. I'm going to need a hole that's going to be able to run these cables all the way through there, and then possibly sit right here. That way my other Anderson connector can just glide right up here, connect, I'm done. So most likely I'll put it horizontal too, like that. All right, let's get this going. All right, just to give you an idea what the final outcome is. So again, running the main power cable to power the trolling motor has already been threaded through inside to the hull of the kayak. It's running all the way straight across within this point, which is what I cut out earlier. So the reason I have this here open, that way in case I need to move that front compartment, all you can do is push it out and out, I'm done. And then here, from the battery, I can run Anderson connector to here. I'm going to take from the trolling motor to the battery. There you go. Now you have a solid contact here. See? No more worries about arcing out or bad voltage with the right size gauge wire. Now again, this battery is not going to be the power source for the trolling motor. It's not enough. It's a only 40 amp hour battery. Good battery though, Violino. What I will be putting in here soon, well, you guys will have to stay tuned for the next one, but I'll show you when I hook that up. And I need a 16 amp hour circuit breaker, so you guys will see all of it. And you're probably wondering what these guys are here. So I have to put these guys in a ream, which I think I'll do now since I'm already here. But basically, both of these sets of wires is meant to be connected to my battery. So you see this here, 2 Anderson connectors. So one goes for my fish finder, the other one goes to the main power lights in the front. Now since I will be running a motor and I'll be out with my fishing, I will need the lights. And these right here are going to connect to directly. So this bad boy here, this is my tackle box that I always run for my setup. And again, I have Anderson connectors here that are powered on with my relay switch. And then when I'm not using this and it's time to take it home, just tuck that in there. If I want, I can just put some tape or something else in there just to keep it in place. And then I'm pretty much all set. But yeah, I hope you guys like the way this turned out. And if you want to get more in depth of the exact tools, material ordered, I'm gonna go ahead and place that in the description box, so that way you guys can see exactly what I use, the cost, and you know how long it took. And I will put some recommendations on tools on there to help you get this stuff done quicker. And I'll drop down the links. So tell you what, if you guys like what you see today, do me a favor, leave a like, drop a comment, yeah, actually, and share this. And be sure to subscribe, because I got more little handy things coming up too that I'm just now working on. So I figured I've learned so much from YouTube, might as well give back. So I figured I'd give you guys a quick tour of how this went down. Talk to you later. Take care.